A very good morning, a very good evening, and a very good afternoon. Wrong way round. I messed it up. But who gives a shit when Liverpool win? Thank you very much for tuning into Redfellas Sunday night. Football Carnage is the name of the channel. Redfellas is the name of the show. And Liverpool is the name of the football club on everyone's lips tonight. Rival fans, Liverpool fans, and most certainly Evan, Steve, and Conroy, who join me tonight. We have got bucket loads to dissect and try to get through, including rivalry, really, Refgate with Conroy and Evan, Nunez paying back that massive, huge fee, Liverpool 2.0. Are we really coming back to the mentality monsters 2.0 as well? So many questions. We may not have the answers, but we have opinions. Oh, we most certainly have opinions. Oh, we most certainly have views. And I'm sure the chat has many views and opinions as well. Keep your views, opinions, whatever you want to say in the chat. I'll try to keep track of it as much as I can whilst listening to these guys salivate about our magnificent football club. Redfellas, guys, how are we? Evan, your voice, guys, I don't want to give it away, but the voice might give it away. You've had another good weekend.
I've lived 1,000 lifetimes in the last few hours. I've stretched myself, my body, and my vocal cords into positions that they have no business being in on a Sunday morning. But, there was an existential crisis. There was a wonderful conclusion. And now I'm not sure if I will ever feel anything ever again because I have felt so much. And it's beautiful and it's horrible at the same time, but we're going to talk about it.
It's beautiful and it's horrible at the same time, Steve. I think that's what summed up your kind of views. You were just speaking off here and saying at halftime you was really angry. And for Steve Plunkett to be angry about Liverpool Football Club, there has to be a lot on. There's a lot gone wrong for you to be angry about this beloved football club. But then by the end, you was exhausted like us. Just don't know what to make of this football club sometimes.
So the halftime whistle goes and Peter Drury says, "Stormy, stormy," and very often angry. And that exactly sums up how I felt, having watched us give the ball away so much in the first half. The penalty decision, the goal against, the mistake for the goal against. Just couldn't see what we were trying to do. It was really, really frustrating. You have to give some credit to Newcastle because they got after us right from the word go, but we'll get into that. I just wanted to see more. I just couldn't see how we turned that around. The players that we've all been sort of waxing lyrical about, and can't wait to see a DM, and then the two guys left and right centre midfield just didn't materialise in the first half, and sat there feeling frustrated because I don't think we're far away in terms of being closer to challenging. On the evidence of that, at times we were miles away. So Peter Drury summed it up: stormy, very often angry, and that did personify me.
Olivia says Evan became a man today. Not only Evan became a man, and we're obviously going to get into it, but as people say, a lot of people saying the makings or the start, I don't know, however you want to look at it, Darwin Nunez came off the bench. Before we're going to get into it, obviously individually, but just generally, yeah, he came off the bench and talking about anger and emotion and vented up frustration and all of that we've sort of witnessed through Liverpool fans and other media channels, fan channels, and us and social media. It seemed like Nunez wasn't a man on a mission as well, right, Conroy?
Definitely. I think my thoughts as soon as the game ended was hopefully it's a groundbreaking moment for Darwin. I think last season, it's not as like he hasn't scored goals, but it felt like it was we really needed someone to step up, and when the chances came, to really take them. And that's something he's been, criticised for. Let's be honest, he's missed a lot of chances. So for him to do that today, not just a level, but to actually get as a result, it's a huge moment. Reminiscent, and I know it's different context, but I remember Torres. It was at the Etihad, might have been maybe 10 years ago, and we were 2-0 down. And it's when City had just got taken over roughly at that time. We're 2-0 down at Etihad. We came back and won 3-2. Torres scores 2 that day. I think Dyke got the winner. But reminiscent of that today, where it was like, away grounds.
Oh, yes. I remember it well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's what it felt like today. It felt like he seized his opportunity, because let's be perfectly honest, at the moment, going into this game, he's going to get games, but he's not necessarily starting. He's not going to be in the first name. He's not going to be in the starting 11. So for him to really stake a claim, it was massive today. It felt like a very unified, like the group just felt so unified. And at the end, you've seen Trent, the relief, him having the captain's armband. That must be a big moment as well. When you became the vice captain, quite quickly have your first game as the captain for the second half. For you to have that feeling of, we don't know where we're going, to come out after all that, all the stuff that happened in the game, to win the game. Yeah, it's a brilliant day. You have to enjoy those games. It's been a bit of a up and down summer, but you have to enjoy those games. And I was screaming at my phone by the end, to be honest.
You have to enjoy these games. You have to enjoy these moments. We done a call-in show yesterday, and I ended it with, guys, we're supporters and some are fans. And that's all we can be, really. Unless you're rich enough or you have connections the way you can get involved in the purchase of Liverpool Football Club, that's what you'll remain. Or you have the coaching badges to a level where you can eventually end up a coach of Liverpool or an analyst or work as a dinner lady even, maybe. But until then, we are fans and we are supporters. And as frustrated and as angry as we can get, of course we can get, and we're entitled to be. But when that whistle blows, Evan Sakhargard, we have to believe, we have to support, because that's what we were destined to do. We were born to, we choose a team and you support that team through thick and thin. And look, it may have been thin on the eye in recent times, but we don't stop supporting. I don't know about you, but the atmosphere brought it out in me. The war hat came out today. I'm ready. Newcastle away, pack St. James Park. The atmosphere was amazing. Liverpool fans, I know hundreds of Liverpool fans that went today, camped in the skies. It's an awful, one of the reasons why I don't really enjoy going St. James Park and I leave it, especially since my elder days, is because you lose about 10,000 calories just trying to get to your seat. It's a horrendous walk up there. But Evan, come that start of that game, the teams are selected. It's really, really time to focus and support Liverpool, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's kind of the reason why I'm making a big effort to go to Kezar Pub more often for these games and enjoy the social aspect of it. I watch most of the games with my dad, and usually that satisfies the social itch to enjoy it with somebody else. But I didn't go to Kezar as much as I should have last season, and I'm going to be trying to go to 30 of the 38 games is the target I've set for myself. And it's important that I enjoy that part of being a fan, because all of us as fans through the internet and social media, that's brought about a different side of our fandom, which is good in some aspects. I mean, it's why I'm talking to the three of you here today and the hundreds in the chat. But at the same time, I need to safeguard and protect that social, familial feeling of supporting the team. I need to be microdosing that experience that I have watching the game with other fans. You know what I mean? I couldn't tell you how many strangers I hugged today. Was I going to hug strangers today if not for that part of my fandom? And yeah, this is kind of what I was alluding to.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had to bring this up. I read some fella's tweet the other day, and it really warmed the cockles up, in my heart. I don't know if that's the right phrase, but we'll run with it. I read this person's tweet and it really got to me, and I really liked it. I wish I could have liked it twice. If Elon Musk is listening, if there's such a like twice button, then please bring it forward. I wanted to like this many times and it really appealed to me, but you are the author of this tweet, so explain.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, being fans with a presence on the internet is great because it connects people and it does all that. But at the same time, you pay a bit of a mental tax every time you go on X or social media or Twitter or whatever you want to call it. You pay a bit of a mental tax, and I would say that price has gotten a little steeper in the last year or so, just as social media moves into a different landscape. But before I tweeted this, I had a long call with my friend who's a Liverpool fan, and without divulging too much of his personal information, he, like me, was living in a major metropolitan area where he had access to the official Liverpool supporters group here in the States. He has since had to take a job out of the big city and into a place where he's less connected with Liverpool fans. He's less connected with his family who are Liverpool fans. So he has nobody to watch the game with. He doesn't really have a presence on the internet. He has lost that sort of fun and family-centric part of his fandom. And all he really has is sort of to experience it through the internet. And he says it was very easy to lose it. And he says it's going to be hard to get it back because I would have to relocate again. I would have to do that again. And that stung me. That really stung me. It bothered me for a few days. And it made me realize just kind of how privileged I am to have family members close by that even come with me to Kezar, to have Liverpool friends close by, to have such easy access to that fun and family-centric part of supporting the club. And that's mainly why I tweeted that, because I was feeling sorry for a dear friend of mine, and I hope he comes back to the city soon.
I hope he does as well. The chat is amazing. Nearly 500 of you guys in here. I can't keep up with the comments. I have made a note of all the super chats, and 100% they will be read out and addressed accordingly. Sort of depending on the topic and subject we're speaking on. Appreciate the love, appreciate the support. If you smash the like button, we would appreciate it even more. It takes a second for you guys. It means the world to us. I guess we've got to start with the lineups. We knew there's going to be changes, forced change-ups. We knew that Konate is injured, and we knew, what else did we know? We knew possibly Endo would be in line for a debut, which would mean that an attacker missed out probably. So the lineup for me wasn't a surprise. I wanted to see Gomez over Matip, but I think we know Matip is still ahead of Joe Gomez in the pecking order. How did you feel?
Yeah, I tweeted yesterday that would be the team. That was my perception of what we'd see. It's not rocket science. It's not unique to me. I think we all could have flip of a coin. Would it be Gomez? Would it be Matip? I think you're right. I think the problem with Gomez is in recent times when he's made a mistake, that the whole game unfolds in front of his eyes, and he's dreadful for the duration. And there's always going to be a tough job with Trent stepping into midfield and Anthony Gordon down that side, and likes to drift out towards, go onto the left foot. So I think he went with composure and a less likelihood to sort of freeze in the occasion and get inside his own head and make mistakes. That kind of is an indictment of where we are with Joe Gomez at the moment in terms of that. From the guy that played alongside Van Dyke in the title-winning season so effortlessly and was rightly at the time regarded probably the best English centre-back. It doesn't take long to kind of come away from that form. Injuries, bad luck, and not getting runs of games, which he needs to improve. So in terms of the team, I wasn't surprised to see Matip come in. We all thought Endo in the DM role would be like, wow, here we go. This is what we wanted to see. Don't think many of us gave too much thought to where we were going and who we were going to play against, because in your first start in a defensive role at Liverpool Football Club, there are easier games to play in the Newcastle away. And we'll talk about that rivalry thing that certainly added to that in the early stages of the game with the noise in there and the atmosphere. I think the front three pick themselves at the moment. You could argue Jota was unlucky to miss out.
I thought so.
But Gakpo looks after the ball so well, and that was a feature of the changes in the game. I was a bit confused as to why he took a man off who was the only guy on the pitch who was not giving the ball away and then it coming right back at us so quickly. But that all turned out well, and we'll get to that. I don't think the team. You're right. The team's not a massive surprise. I think we've been crying out to see Dom on the right and Mac on the left, and someone in behind them, allowing them to do their thing. And they'll have better days, and things will be more cohesive, and that defensive midfield role will work better for Endo or Basetic or whoever we get our hands on if we do in the remainder of the transfer window. But it's probably the strongest team we could pick, given who's available, and if Konate would have been available, that would have been the only change. So on paper, in the boss's mind, in most of our minds, that's probably right now our strongest team. And I go back to the point that Jota can count himself when looking on current form.
Devin Diaz says, what a way to celebrate my 43rd birthday. Happy birthday, first and foremost. First experience as a Liverpool supporter pub in California. This is my first official year as a fan. What a day. Welcome to the family, my friend. Welcome to the Liverpool family. What a day indeed. A couple of super chats that possibly we can start off speaking about. Pixelated Pigeon, an absolute legend of the channel, says, got to catch up later. No problem. Have a good day. By dropping a super chat to say, like the stream, subscribe, and acknowledge our Lord and Savior, Agent Chaos, Darwin Nunez. Yeah, absolutely. Conroy, formation-wise, in my head, I knew we're going to revert to 4-3-3. I knew it. I knew we were going to do it, especially with the balance of the midfield being closest to being the most balanced that it's been profile-wise in a long, long time. We have an authentic DM. We have a ball-playing 8, and we have a ball carrier 8. And then obviously with the injury to Konate, Matip not being we know my views on Matip. I knew we'd go back to 4-3-3. Was that the right decision in your mind? Or if we have a way of playing, we need to stick it out and try it in the most adverse of situations and grounds to practice it and believe in it. Or are you like me? No, horses for courses. Be flexible.
Yeah, no, I think we discussed this last week. I think you and I both agreed that it'll be quite telling. Now, again, it's slightly hard when you get a man sent off that early in the game, but I still think it seemed to play out the same. I've not seen the heat maps or, average positions, but to me, it felt very similar to Chelsea in the sense of like Trent wasn't popping in inverted, as areas as much. And we discussed that. For me, in general, horses for courses, I'm quite happy to adapt to different matches. But the interesting thing with us is I think you've seen that in general, we're not the best at adapting like throughout a season. Usually it is, I know there's tweaks, don't get me wrong, but like it's general a way of this is our system, this is how we're going to play. And we do that. So the only bit of confusion, is that the right word for me, is if we are going to go back to the Trent thing, which I think we will, but I think it may be a lot of games where it's maybe at home where you can't break someone down, or maybe I'm being too quick on that, Grizz. Maybe it's a case of it's the first game, Endo's came in. Let's maybe just try and be a bit more safe or a bit more solid with this one. And then as they get more gel and more confident together, they move to that. Or it may just be, if it's a top 10 side, we just revert back to type. But as Evan has said a lot last season and last week, I think he mentioned it as well, that the biggest issues we had was when we went back to that 4-3-3 original shape that had so much success. It was our press and it was gaps in transition that was our main issues. So that's the thing. It's not as if you're saying 4-3-3 when we won the title. It's a 4-3-3 that we've had issues with lately. So that's maybe a worry. But to be honest, guys, I think, as I always say, I think sample size, we'll need to give this one a couple of weeks to really see what's what, because Endo's literally just in the door. So for me, I think we need to just wait to see how this one plays out.
Me being the technical genius that I am these days behind the scenes, Evan, in the 10 seconds that Conroy mentioned average map position, I've managed to magically, hire me.
Absolutely savvy now. So savvy on the tech side now.
Yep.
Get a load of Ian Graham up here, guys. Check this out. Look at this guy.
I am the new spearman. I'm the new one, bro. Ian Graham's yesterday's news. So yeah, look, the graphic shows it was definitely a revert to a type of 4-3-3. Not quite evident and clear there, but I expected it. Didn't quite work well in the opening exchanges, would you say, Evan? New personnel, new players, a bit of rustiness in probably the system as well. And Newcastle really pressed us in that opening 20 minutes, didn't they?
Yeah. What I will say is on games where we have a majority of possession, the heat map, the average positions will look different. It
Yeah.
will look more like the box midfield. On days like this and against Chelsea where we have so little of the ball, different game state, it will look more like a 4-3-3 because out of possession, it's a classic 4-3-3, and in possession, Trent inverts. Obviously today we only got to do that for the first 20 minutes, 20, 30 minutes. And in that first 20, 30 minutes, I didn't think we were doing a good job of taking care of the ball at all. It was a bit of a slugfest. Like you said, Grizz, they were pressing us pretty effectively, forcing turnovers. But I would say we were also pressing them very effectively as well. I liked our pressing shape, but I didn't like what we did with the ball after we got it. You saw sort of the benefits of using Gakpo as a focal point because he definitely does take care of the ball quite a bit better, links play, knows what's happening on the left wing at the right wing at all times. It does work in that sense, but I thought Newcastle were sort of able to press us and shuttle us into corridors where we didn't necessarily want to be. Sometimes they would encourage Joel Matip to go on his typical waltz into midfield, and that didn't always pay off. There were some misplaced passes. Matip was, at times just forced to recycle alongside his teammates. So it was a bit of a weird one. I'm honestly going to be going to bed tonight, very curious to see how that game would have gone had it stayed at 11v11 the entire time, because it seemed like a pressing slugfest. I don't think Newcastle were essentially doing a better job at taking care of the ball any better than we were when it was 11v11. It was just some high quality pressing on display, not a lot of high quality possession from either team. And especially, Newcastle were not, throughout as soon as it went 11v10, they weren't doing a good job taking care of the ball as well. From there, it should be a training session. I think if you want to be a top Premier League team, Grizz, I'll finish on this. As soon as it goes to 11v10, it needs to be a training session. And if it doesn't become a training session for your team, then I would say you're probably not quite there yet.
Can I just come in on that one?
Go for it.
Evan's point's really, really, really key. We definitely started out with this new idea of having Trent in midfield. Trent loses the ball in the middle of the park and they score. The pressure, the intensity they put us under, we had no choice, similarly to the Chelsea game, but to revert to the 4-3-3 you speak about, albeit a slightly different 4-3-3, because we still wanted Szoboszlai to do his bits and pieces and cause some damage, so it's slightly lopsided 4-3-3. But I think we went there with every intention of doing that, and I think we'll go into every intention of doing that, and we'll find out very quickly whether that's going to work. And obviously we gave the ball away in the middle of the pitch with the miscontrol, and they score. And then from that moment on, they're on the front foot for 10 minutes, and we resort to a 4-3-3 because we have to hold on a little bit to half-time. We were holding on a little bit to half-time. So I think Evan's right. Be really interesting to see a heat map for the first 15, 20 minutes and then see a heat map overall. I think you'd see Trent slightly more inverted than he is on that heat map you showed. But over the 90 minutes, that would be his average position because it called for it. We talked about horses for courses and games when things won't go our way and we have to dig in and be resilient and be tough to beat. And despite all of the difficulties of the first half, we were only ever one goal down. We did a good job at containing the threat. But I think if we could see a different heat map, again, referencing Evan's point, from the start of the game to the end of the game, I think the idea was for Trent to be supported in that midfield, but it just didn't materialise.
Philippe, our resident Newcastle fan, so nice of you to still come in our chat. Shows a sign of class to me. Says fair play LFC, deserved winners. Add a midfielder and a centre-back next week, and you not only be challenged, but win the title. Character of your team is immense. Thank you very much. Shows you've got a good character as well after a performance, a result like that, I should say.
He always has, Philippe. I've always liked Philippe quite a bit.
Word of the day, Shen McGee says, is adversity. He absolutely crushed it. This team has something brewing, and I'm here for it. Conrad, I guess the first talking point of so many is probably the Trent incident. In a week of officiating of whatever. That's a blatant foul on Trent Alexander-Arnold. everyone in the ground knows that's a push on Trent Alexander-Arnold. Pushes him into the boarding. Trent, natural reaction. I don't know many players that would not react in that situation. Not many. But he does. He petulantly throws the ball, hoping that it hits him. It doesn't hit him. I have a feeling if it hit him, it might not have got a yellow. I'm not sure. I don't know if that's I don't know if that makes a difference, but it doesn't, and he gets a yellow card. That sets the tone. I think that's in the opening 5 minutes or so.
Maybe even less.
Even less.
Minutes, yeah.
Made a stupid non-call and not giving the foul, the most blatant foul, and then he's put him under huge pressure that he's given a winger who is always going to try to run at Trent a yellow card after a few minutes. And then Trent follows it up with a couple of minutes later with a taking out of the winger. He puts the ball past him and takes him out. Just your opinion on that sequence of events?
Yeah, no, I think it is a foul. I think players do need to wake up, though, Grizz. They've been drummed into them. You can't throw the ball away and delay actions. So we're not talking about a 6-year-old here. We're talking about a vice-captain of Liverpool who's a professional footballer. So I understand his emotion, but it's been drummed into them. So it's absolutely a foul, but he has to know better. And we scream for consistency. So see if he didn't book Trent for doing it, even though I agree it should have been a foul, that's the mistake straight away. Players need to get smarter because they are going to get booked for doing anything like that. But I agree, and I think what's happened is John Brooks has done that, and then he's probably quickly realised after he's booked Trent, because I think the fourth official said it might have been a free kick as well, or after that,
Jurgen Klopp said
yeah.
all the officials on the sideline admitted that was a foul.
Yeah, and so straight away he probably knows that, so that's already on his mind, right? That it's a foul. So when Gordon takes it by him, I think it's poor decision making by Trent. Like, you shouldn't be, if you're on a booking, even touching him in that situation. I think he gets away with one. I do understand it. For me, I've seen ones this season where it's not like that's always a booking, but I think the way especially it's been refereed and now that should have been a second booking. But I think the refs just thought he's made a mistake in the earlier call, so he doesn't want to do it again and make that situation even worse. So I think Jamie Carragher summed it up. I think it's two mistakes because of the first one, and that probably should be a second. It probably should be a second yellow. Do you all agree that it's definitely a second yellow? Because what I would say to that is, I watched the Man City game last week. Was it Man City Arsenal in the Community Shield? And obviously fans of their own team will complain about it, but if you watch in the first 5 minutes, Rodri never got booked for pulling back or stopping Odegaard, but Odegaard also never got booked for letting I think it was Grealish going by. So what I mean is I have seen situations where a booking has not happened for that foul or something like that, but then maybe that's me being too.
I think it's the right call. I think it's the right call.
If a red card was given for those two incidents, I would have gone mad.
I'm sorry. Two yellows for who, Conroy?
What, in the Man City game? No, I'm saying in that game, in the first opening half, there was a foul like that where it was like how Anthony Gordon beat Trent. I think it was Grealish beat Odegaard, and he fouled him at the start, and it wasn't given a booking. So what my reference is like, I've seen situations where a booking's not been given for that challenge, just to put another viewpoint on it.
I don't think it was a booking, because if you watch the slow-mo, sorry, Grizz, he doesn't pull him back. It's a closed fist that bounces off his shoulder. He's not actually got his hand around him, pulling him back. I think if he goes off a second yellow card for that, the game's gone, because he doesn't pull him back. He just makes contact with an arm on the top of his shoulder, and Anthony Gordon's looking for any contact to go down, because he's done that ever since he came into the Premier League.
I think very quickly, then you can go. I think the combination and the accumulation of both incidents warrants one yellow.
Agreed.
That's what I think. And I think that's ultimately what happened in the end. But it's the order it happened, which is pissing off Newcastle fans and rival fans. And Liverpool fans are saying, we got life. We didn't get life. Okay, we got life in because of the stupidity of the referee and in the order he gave the yellow cards. But I think after the second incident, based on the first incident, which would have said, be careful. Right, I know you've been just shoved into the holding boards, but just be careful. And then if he had done that 1 minute later, that's a yellow card. I just warned you to be careful, and now you've just tried to clothesline a winger. That's it. But the sequence of events means there's uproar saying, oh my God, we got life. We didn't get life. Sorry, Evan.
I just want to come in and say I don't think Trent is lucky to have not been sent off.
Yeah.
I don't. I think the first one's clearly a yellow card. It's just frustrating because it should have been our foul, and then he throws the ball away in frustration. It's objectively a yellow card, but then again, it was objectively a foul on him a second and a half prior. The reason he doesn't get sent off for the Anthony Gordon thing, other than Anthony Gordon's reputation preceding him, as Steve rightly points out, is that the touch is gone. The touch is not good enough to beat Trent Alexander-Arnold. Trent does not need to foul him to win the ball. He has already put his body between him and the player. Player's just running into his arm, going down. Endo is also on the cover, so the referee knows the ball is gone for the player and that the player is looking for it. If Endo wasn't on the cover, then I would say it's dubious, because then you could say Trent is stopping him from going down the line on him. But given that the ball is already gone, as people like to say in these situations, I don't think it's even a hint of a yellow card against Trent. But it was a poorly officiated game during a week of unprecedentedly bad PR for PGMOL. So
before we get into the opening goal, we're going to get into it right now. Actually, close to 700 of you guys in here, not even 300 likes. Can we get to 300 right now? Please stop what you're doing. Stop listening to our waffle and like the stream right now. 3 seconds silence for everyone to just hit that like button, and then we can continue. So I guess, look, I don't know if that rattled Trent or whatever terminology you want to use in that situation for a player. Trent was put off his game. Maybe he sees Joe Gomez warming up on the sideline. Say what we want, Steve. That's 2 weeks in a row now where Trent's concentration on the ball has enabled the opposition to score a goal. It's not good enough, Steve. It's not good enough. We can think of him what we want. He's been made vice captain. It's not a great start to a player and a defender that's probably under a lot of scrutiny this season in terms of his defensive awareness.
It's a lapse, and you're right. It's not the first time. This is in his game, Grizz. We've seen this right throughout his career. Lackadaisical at times with his passing, where it doesn't hit the intended target. Last season, people were calling for him to be taken off in games because of the aptitude and how hard he applied himself to the games. It's bad. It is bad, and it looks worse because that obviously the score off it. I don't know how you change that in a player at 24, 25. They kind of are what they are. You know, there's an ideology out there that when a player gets to a certain age, you don't improve them. You give them systems that improve them. You find it difficult to change them as players, and you find it difficult to change their mentality. And you kind of have to accept players for all that they are, warts and all, to coin a phrase. You know, the bad things that happen, do they offset against the good things? If you end up seeing more bad than good, then that player's position comes into question. I don't know if we're ever going to be able to sit down with Trent and look at him and say to him, why do you do that? You need to find a way to stop it. I don't know if you can. It's probably too late in the lad's career to do that. It's 2 and 2, and like you say, 2 and 2. So it's a little bit alarming, and it'll be dined out on by our rival fans, as everything is that Trent does. I just wonder whether we'll ever see it change, and we may have to accept that that's the bad that is offset against the good, but there's so much good you can live with it.
Evan and Conrad, do you want to come into that? Because it's true. It's interesting how we deal with that, or how Klopp. We don't deal with it. We have to accept it either way. But how does Klopp deal with that, guys? How does Klopp try to stamp out these lapses of concentration or whatever, especially as we guys have spoken about, he tends to find himself central a lot now. And it's sometimes he can get away with it when he does it in a fullback situation. So Konate, whoever's that right-sided centre-back, can come cover. But when you're in the centre of the pitch, it usually leads to a direct chance as opposed to chance to create a chance from the wide position. Is it a positional sense until he wakes up that he's got more responsibility and it's more vital that he concentrates even more, we just have to roll with it? Or is there a coaching scenario here that can be done?
If you, so I don't think there's anything you can do coaching wise, technique wise, because when we're talking, if we're talking about these two errors specifically, the one today and the one against Bournemouth, the guy who's a well above average player in Europe's top 5 leagues takes 2 touches that a 12-year-old kid would be ashamed of, right? You know, it's embarrassing when the ball bounces off your ankle bone and you give it right to the opposition. It's embarrassing when it rolls right underneath the studs of your boot. Anybody at any level is embarrassed to do that and would consider that unacceptable. So what can Klopp do other than say, shake it off, don't let it get in your head? Because it's not like it's something he's doing wrong in the shape. You know what I mean? It's not like some of these things you can point to Trent in the past, like, Trent, be more aware of where Konate is when we're doing the offside trap. There's a tactical fix for that. Trent, be more aware of what's happening behind your ear at the back post, because they're going to be running in behind you. You're going to occasionally be double teamed. That's a systematic tweak that we can change, his habits and things like that. You can't, how do you coach a player not to let the ball roll under his studs? It's just it's a lapse of concentration. Maybe there's some sort of off the pitch thing he could be doing. You know, I've seen in this new age, you know, sports psychology has become huge. You know what I mean? All the big clubs have registered, established elite sports psychologists. I would go there before it becomes anything that's addressed at AXA training, because again, the 2 touches or one lack thereof that anybody would be ashamed of. So you can't like coach that differently. That's not a tactic. That's not a technique. It's just 2 crap touches back to back. So yeah, Grizz, I'm not sure there's really anything you can do about that on the training pitch. It's just a matter of restoring the confidence in the player.
Conroy, it leads to the opening goal, and it's that pest and a nuisance, probably one of the worst player on the pitch from a Liverpool point of view that could have scored against us. He hates us, we hate him. Absolute clear-boarding lookalike, diving son of a gun. But he scores, and it's no mean feat trying to go past Alison one-on-one. It goes through his legs, doesn't it? Bit unfortunate because it goes through his legs.
Yeah. Well, if he means it, I'm not saying he does, but because he puts it back on his right foot, like there's a few strikers in the world, especially maybe the last 10 years, who used to be absolutely, they meant to put it through the keeper's legs, but I don't know. You don't know in this situation, but if he does mean it, it is a very good finish. And to be fair, he started the season very well. He was brilliant against Aston Villa. I think he was okay last week. Not the greatest game against Man City. A few Newcastle fans were surprised. Not surprised, but there was maybe a chance that Harvey Barnes just came in with the start of this game. But to be fair to Gordon, he is a pest. But every time he's played against us, like, he does cause problems. He's got that in him. So if Trent's going to give the ball away anywhere, it's not in that position, especially against the Newcastle with the pace they've got in behind. So yeah, it'd be interesting. You can see why Newcastle spent the money on him, because like if you look at like someone like a Howe, you can see how he develops his wingers, and it makes sense that he'll probably continue to cause problems in that position. But it's one of them. I have to go back to what Evan said. It's like between Bournemouth and today, me and Steve said it last week, like it's not going to be the last time Trent makes a mistake in that position. But hopefully from that, he'll take those mistakes and that'll sharpen him up in the sense of he maybe gets that ball back from Salah and he's thinking, I'm going to play a 30-yard crossfield pass to start an attack. But at times he might have to be like, you know what? We're under the cosh, not under the cosh, but it was a bit a slugfest, as Evan said, and it was a bit.
It was. I mean, at that point, I must stress, looking back, they didn't create any chances. We weren't sieged under. It was just the atmosphere, the pressing.
Control,
we were pressing them as well very well, by the way, guys.
Yeah, the incident from which Salah passes the ball back to Trent and it goes under his studs is the result of us winning possession back really well with Szoboszlai. Szoboszlai does a great press. It falls to Salah. I'm thinking, great. Salah recycles possession. Trent does what he does, and it's a cruel twist of fate. But yeah, we were disrupting their own ability to string
as well as they
passes.
were disrupting us.
Yeah, and vice versa. It was an absolute slugfest.
But There was felt like a lack of control though, in the sense of, as
Oh,
Evan said,
yeah.
someone taking charge and like, I'm going to just calm things down. And with experience, you might see Trent gets that ball again. He's like, no, we're just going to back to Alison, back to Robertson. Let's just calm it down a bit. Let's get through this next 10 minutes or so, because that ultimately it's just to say, like, one of the biggest thing about Newcastle is obviously the improved squad, but they want that atmosphere. They want to build that momentum, and that's what we're trying to calm down.
You know what? Interesting, Conroy. Big up Sasito, who was my host on the calling show yesterday, and he was spreading the positivity vibes. He just couldn't take it that we were so negative and down. And yeah, big up, man. A performance full of character, determination, game management, and skill. I know you was angry, Steve. You say at the first half, whatever, but just before they scored, guys, and I know, like Evan said just before we went live, that it's a difficult game to analyze, and it is, because once we're going to come into the sending off situation, it's a total different ball game, of course, and tactically you have to readjust and everything. But I felt, guys, that we were about to gain some form of control after the initial loud atmosphere, etc. I thought, and I saw elements of McAllister in combination with Gakpo trying to get hold of the ball. But then, saying that, I don't know who to go to first. I'm not going to nominate someone. It's first buzz gets in. Look, it's an incident that involves Isaac receiving the ball just on the edge of the box, possibly running in on a goal. Virgil van Dijk possibly going through him, possibly getting the ball, possibly. Who gives a shit? The ref decides it's a red card. We go down to 10 men. Who wants to speak about that?
Can I start on that one?
You've buzzed. Well done.
This is all about starting position. This is why this happens, because Carragher made a point in the summary afterwards that Van Dijk has been so good in recent years of anticipating he's going to get there first and using his physical attributes to get there first. His starting position is dreadful, and Isaac takes the ball away from him on the left side using his left foot, and he tackles from the wrong side of the man. And now that's asking for trouble. I tweeted after the game, he gave the referee a decision to make. He gave the VAR team a decision to make. He should never have put himself in that position to do that. He didn't read the play particularly well. He didn't have a great starting position. He was quite slow to react, if we're being honest about it. From where he tackled him, for me, that's the correct decision. You can't tackle through a man. That's the rules of the game. So, look, people will die on the hill because they're Liverpool fans, and you can't give decisions against Liverpool, and I get that. We've all been there. Never give the officials decisions to make with the state of officiating where it is right now, because there's a good chance they'll get them wrong. So I'm not going to sit here and say I thought it was a terrible decision and that they're going to overturn, because it won't, because he can't do what he did. We just have to learn from it. We just have to be better. We have to be smarter. We have to be more awake. Guy's dangerous. He warrants a bit of extra attention anyway. Starting position is key. That's my thoughts on it.
Poll incoming, guys. You already know me. In the background, Techno Genius has already put a poll in, and it simply says penalty, yes or no. Oh, and then there's the other dilemma. Sorry, not penalty. Shit. Start again. Red card, yes or no. Steve's laid down the gauntlet and suggests that, listen, get over it, guys. It was a red card all day long, he says. I'm going to give us the middle part of the section and then let the other two finish off. I think at the speed which he gives a red card, in his mind, it's clear and obvious. I think is wrong. I think it's a debatable red card. I think it is one of those ones. I genuinely believe if he went to go and see it on the monitor, I don't think he would have stuck to the red card. Isaac doesn't see. The thing is, Isaac doesn't get the touch of the ball first. A lot of people are saying he got the ball first and then Virgil van Dijk clatters through him. There is an element of Virgil van Dijk clattering through him, but I do not know of many challenges in that scenario that take place where the defender doesn't have to go through the said player at some point. I don't think it was a clear and obvious goal scoring opportunity as well. I think he's still at least 22 yards away from the goal. I thought it was debatable. I don't think it was obvious no and obvious yes. Call me sitting on the fence, but who gives a shit? I own this channel. Evan and Conroy.
It's not clear and obvious. I'm with you right there. I think it's a foul. I think he goes through the man to get the ball. You could see that in live motion. You can see it in slow motion. From every angle, it clearly shows that's the case. I think on the halfway line, it's a good tackle. Refs are less burdened with the weight of did he touch the ball before he touched the man when that tackle occurs all over the pitch. You see that given as a clean tackle, I think, everywhere, especially when players are like shielding the ball in the corner like Trent did when we were up eventually 2-1. I'm kind of with you, Grizz. I don't think it's clear and obvious. I also would like to debate. I don't think Isak is clearly obviously through on goal, because let's assume Van Dijk decides not to engage. Isak still has a shoulder-to-shoulder battle to fight with Van Dijk to be through on goal. Not to mention when Van Dijk makes the tackle, Joel Matip's about a yard away from the situation. Is he really so clearly like the last man? You know what I mean? I think the part where it's a clear and obvious goal scoring opportunity, I think, is shrouded in gray area. Where it's not shrouded in gray area is whether or not it's by the book definition of foul. Because even if it is just the difference of a millisecond, he does hit the leg before he gets the ball. I maintain that it's not a foul, in that there's more leeway for that part of the rule book in other parts of the pitch, understandably so. But yeah, not clearly and obviously a goal scoring opportunity for me based on those reasons. I would also like to say it would be foolish to ignore the context in which this game has happened after Mike Dean's comments about why he didn't want to send his refereeing compatriots to the monitor for an incident that happened against Chelsea and Spurs, I believe, last season. I have watched the video. I have read the comment. I watched the video. I watched the words leave his mouth to make sure that I have fully understood the context, because obviously on Twitter things are obviously taken out of context and put into quotes all the time. And then I read and watched PGMOL's response to that. Fuck PGMOL. Completely gut the system, rebuild it, because if we have situations where referees don't want to, or VAR specifically don't want to send the center refs to the monitor, they don't want to overrule them because they think they're having a rough day with the crowd or rough this, rough that, then it's sick to the core and it absolutely needs to be replaced. There needs to be a human element to refereeing to a certain extent. I get it. But at the same time, they need to be as close to robotic as they possibly can be. There's no place for friends. There's no place for emotions or anything like that. And for me, I am not a conspiracy theorist. I do not have any genuine hatred for any referee. Conroy can back this up. I've even sat here and defended referees with him multiple times on this show because I think it's a widely misunderstood thing. But I am now changing my tune because I've been presented with new evidence based in this last week. I think PGMOL and the FA are in a horrible position. I think this reflects really poorly on Howard Webb as well. So I think in the context of the question in the poll that you asked, Grizz, I think we have to acknowledge the context of Mike Dean's comments in relation to this decision, because it is something that could have been overturned by VAR. It's something that he absolutely could have been sent to the monitor for, like you said, but it didn't happen. And for me, a VAR advocate in its early days, I cannot honestly say that I still am.
Conroy.
Yeah, for me, I think I agree with Steve. It's at the end of the day, it's the ball through. If we had that opportunity, we'd be wanting a red card for that, because there's enough pace in the ball. The Isak's scrolling through. He'd be 1-on-1. That's a goal scoring opportunity. Doesn't matter. I mean, if you talk about positioning the goal, like I think Harvey Barnes with Martinez a couple of weeks ago, but the keeper and Alison last week gets filled wide, so it's not a goal scoring opportunity. But he'd be coming in, so for me, that's a goal scoring opportunity. Like, football's subjective in general, so you're gonna get some people who disagree with that. And again, if you watch the footage from behind the goal, he actually clatters into him. I mean, you can't clatter into him, and then it's a foul. It's outside the box, so the double jeopardy doesn't apply. It's not if you get a penalty, and then try to win the ball, they'll rescind that. He clatters into him. It's going through. It's a red card. And the thing is, it's like I think a lot of things that Evan said was absolutely spot on. But in this regard, for me, judging on that case, it's a red card, or there's not enough to argue with. But to be honest, the narrative now is there's no, because it's football. There's always a debate because it's a subjective sport. You're always going to have that. On the thing that Evan said, just to add as well.
Very quickly, I don't want to dwell on it.
Just with regard to the points with the PGMOL and about starting again, I think, to be fair, a lot of the stuff that got suggested and looked to do would be there'd be VR specialists. So a referee and a VR specialist who would be referee qualified would be two different entities going forward. So it wouldn't be like this, let's say Mike Oliver's doing a game on Saturday and then VR on Sunday. So I think a couple of months ago I read that was the plan going forward. So hopefully something like that. That to me would make that would help a lot if that was the case. Two different entities.
I think it would help. I have to come in real quick. I think it would help, but it doesn't fix ultimately what I'm suggesting is that Mike Dean was so buddy with his guy. He didn't want to send the center ref who was having a tough day or whatever he said because he had already received too much grief or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, a VAR specialist refs, I'm sure that could only help this flawed system that they've created. But
and he has been removed as well, Evan. Mike Dean's not there anymore. He's not in VR anymore because of that.
Well, whoop-de-doo. I guess that's the silver lining for the situation. I would also like to I completely disagree that the pace on the pass is enough to send Isak through. Like I said, Van Dyke chooses to engage. Ultimately, it's the wrong decision because he does clatter the player. I have not denied that whatsoever. But this idea that he has to engage Isak to prevent it from happening and that it's like a professional foul or a pull of the jersey like you see on this, absolutely not. If Van Dyke lets it run, it's a shoulder-to-shoulder situation. Definitely not a clear goal-scoring opportunity.
I hear what you're saying, but Van Dijk's on the wrong side and he's actually left-footed. So the opportunity to get a shot off is there from the moment Van Dijk makes the challenge. I understand the pace on the through ball. That's a little bit subjective. When you're on the wrong side,
we're in subjective territory here. I'm just going back. I'm looking at the incident as I'm saying this. I'm trying not to speak emotionally. I'm looking at the pace. I'm looking at the pace of the pass. It's not enough. Assuming Van Dijk doesn't engage and chooses to go shoulder to shoulder, the pace of the pass is not enough to clearly send him through on goal with an uncontested shot.
I think he engages him because if he doesn't engage him, then he loses him.
As I
disagree.
Order. As I said to you guys, I knew we're going to get entrangled in terms of that particular decision. But I want to say, Ash sends in a super chat, says, weird to say going down to 10 helped. At that point, it's a matter of, I thought, right, guys, as hard as this will be for the remainder of the half, and then obviously the second half, try to stay in there. And then we have players of the ability of a Salah, Gakpo, possibly look at our bench, Nunez, Jota, where we can and we will have a chance or two, and a draw will be an amazing result from this situation. I want to come to you first. Evan, I'll come to first. And the turning point where I began to believe even more was, I don't think it's talked about enough, the miraculous save from Alison from the Almiron volley, which is pretty much from the penalty spot. Fully flush catches it, and Alison not only saves it, has the reaction and the speed and the strength and the conditioning to get up and palm it away as well.
I'm not sure I viewed it as at the time as an omen of good things to come, Grizz. I think I might have seen that more as shit. This could be a long fucking day, because he's not going to keep out every single one.
When
of those.
You see miracles, Evan, when miracles take place, it changes one's life and perception and the whole thing. When you see miracles happen and take place, you start believing, brother. That is my mentality. That was a miracle of a save, and I started to believe.
I mean, you've won me over, Grizz. That was spirited. That was. I mean, here's if it ends up being a long day, if Newcastle put us to the sword, I'm not quite sure.
I wouldn't have mentioned it.
Yeah. How much belief you were filled after Newcastle proceeded to put 5 past us. But yeah, listen, he's a fantastic goalkeeper, and we make him look fantastic by giving him so much shit to do. You know what I mean? People say last season was Alison's best season for the club. I agree, it's objectively true, but we made him look that way because we were so crap. We're always giving him things to do. I think he's always been that good. We just gave him like 2 things to save per game as opposed to 6 or whatever the stat is. But yeah, it's a stunning save. It's an absolutely stunning save. And I wish at the time the game state was in a better place and I was in a better place as a human being and as a fan to enjoy it. I was just not quite there, Grizz. My first reaction was, well, he's not going to do that 5 more times. So it could be a long day. It could be a long day, but Grizz, and I'm sure we'll come on to it, they never did put us to the sword like I thought they would, which is why I think they're a good team, a very good team, a top 4 Premier League team, but they are not a great team yet.
Well, this is it, Steve, and I want to come to you on this point because in the second half, even though there was isolated incidents of Gordon terrorizing, let's be honest, Trent for quite a period of the game, it didn't really result in many clear-cut chances. I remember a brilliant block from Robertson that they thought was handball at one stage. A couple of saves from Alison, nothing as biblical, miraculous, or like the one I'm referring to. But the longer that they couldn't put us away, and then we'll go on to the substitutions that were needed to be made and were made, was there any hope in your heart that we could get back into this as the second half progressed? Because I'm going to be honest, guys, there was for me.
Yeah, there was for me too, because I think the longer you go, you can't, and we've seen it ourselves when we've been in Newcastle's position, we've struggled to break teams down with a low block. The longer you leave it, the longer you can't put them away for, they start to get some self-belief, and it was evident. I think for the moment, Almiron at the post after going past 3 or 4.
Beg your pardon, yes.
Yeah. That's when you start to think, we could just get a little bit of a foothold in this game. Evan's point there that he made, Newcastle being a good side without being a great side. Eddie Howe's a good manager without being a great manager for me. They're a one-track team. They do the same thing, whether they're winning 1-0 or whether they're losing 1-0. They don't have too much tactical variance, and that's because the substitutions they make don't change things, don't change it necessarily. They're kind of where we were a few years ago when you look at the bench and think, Longstaff's not a guy who's going to go and win you a game of football. You look at that and you think that, they don't bring on game changers, exciting people. They're a bit one pace, they're a bit one dynamic, bit one tactic. Don't get me wrong, they do it very well. And more often than not, it's enough to win games of football. They are a good side, and that's a hard place to go to. Kind of ran out of ideas and ran out of steam, and we've been guilty of that in recent years when we've not had the personnel to do the business. Yeah, you're right. The longer the game goes, the more we get, the more passes we put together. We start finding each other, 5 or 6 little passes together. A couple of final balls that don't quite hit their target because we're probing, we're asking questions, we're starting to think we can get something out of this game. The substitutions, as you're going to get onto, made a difference. Yeah, I'm with you. I thought the longer this goes on, if we could just snatch one, because we've got Newcastle and Eddie Howe do not have a good record against Liverpool per se for both of them. So it's in their minds. This is our chance to put Liverpool to bed. They're down to 10 men. If we get a second goal, it's done. And it would have been done.
It would have been done.
But it doesn't come. And we grow and we grow and we make changes and we continue to grow. And we all know what happens in the end.
I'm trying to, I don't know if one of you guys can help or someone in the chat can help. At what minute we made the changes and what, the vital changes. We know the changes that were made. Thank you for the super chat. N11, he says, love the thobe. The thobe is what I'm wearing, this kind of thing. If anybody doesn't know what a thobe is, thank you.
Chris, I know Nunez comes on in the 77th minute, but I don't know if that...
Before Nunez, Elliott and Jota come on, I believe. We know that because of the sending off, Diaz is taken off, and unluckily, unfortunately, a decision had to be made. But I've got them here actually. 57 minutes. There's a double change. Jota and Elliott come on the pitch, and a debutant Endo. A quick word on the debutant Endo. Very difficult to judge and base and evaluate his performance, right, guys? I don't think there's much.
Yeah.
Unfortunate for him.
Yeah, it's a tough game state to be put into. Like, I have thoughts, but I'm gonna save it because I'm a sample size guy. You guys know this.
In that case, there's absolutely no sample size. 2 10 men. Yeah, exactly. 2 10 men versus 11 men scenario. So yeah, he's not gonna end up playing 10 men versus 11 every game. Hopefully. I want to speak about a couple of players, but there's a super chat on Harvey Elliott. Boy, Evan knows. LFC Tenerife says. And then Nish sends in a super chat. He says, stunning performance by number 8 and number 9 after ages. We'll get on to the number 9, but our number 8s, namely Sabozalai and Elliott in that second half. Sabozalai's performance went under the radar for some, but I thought it was one of the most monstrous efforts I've seen in a long time. Conroy, we've got ourselves an absolute superstar, and I don't even think we've touched like the levels that he can reach.
Yeah, I don't even think we've touched the surface with what he can actually.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, no, I agree, Grizz, because even in a bit like Endo's first game, you've had 2 10-men performances and away to Chelsea without a DM in the team equivalently. So
yes,
you talk about
sample 2 lungs, man.
Yeah. I think who was it? Evan, was it you who said it last week, or Steve who said it last week? That was one of the, or it might have been Ben. I think Ben mentioned that when we signed Endo, Ben was on talking about that, but he also obviously mentioned Sabozlai, and he said his actual stamina. It was the lactate test, and it was Trent. Yeah. I think it was you, Grizz, said he was so surprised at how good he was.
He said, "He what?" Because when they mentioned the figures and the numbers and the stats, Trent was taken aback, like, "Woo."
Yeah, so I mean, for us and for our team, especially midfield, that's outstanding. But I think as well, for me, it's his intelligence is really impressing me, because to equivalently go in a box basically with McAllister second half. This guy,
we've just been corrected. Everyone has 2 lungs.
Yeah, so okay, he's got 3 lungs. He's got 3 lungs.
I think we should go 3 lungs.
Yeah, we're too focused there. But yeah, I think he's shown in the small sample size how good he can be, but it does feel like once we get going and everyone gets gelled, he can do so much, because you've got the attacking side of the game, but it's his flexibility in positions I've been quite impressed with, and different ways we want to play. If we want to control a game, he can do that with McAllister as well. I just think this guy really could be kind of subtly be the
Say it.
No, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to
say that. Say it.
Don't say it.
I'm not going to say.
I'm gonna say it. Soboslai at 22 is giving me Kevin De Bruyne vibes.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah.
I'm gonna say it. Here's the thing, and it's not a blasphemous take. Let me tell you why. Kevin De Bruyne's thing, the reason Kevin De Bruyne is a world beater, is because at his peak, I'm not quite sure because he's injured and he's getting on a bit in age. At his peak, the reason he changed games was because he was more skilled than anybody else on the pitch, and he could run just as hard as anybody else on the pitch, if not harder. It's that perfect tandem of engine and ability, and that's what separates these players from the rest of the pack. So just based on that alone, I look at Soboslai. He's taller than the average player. Over a dead sprint of 20, 30 yards, he's faster than the average player. He's more skilled than the average player, and he's got he's got one more lung than the average player. He's got 3. So on that alone, comparing him to Kevin De Bruyne is not blasphemous at all. Obviously, we're not comparing achievements because one is 10 years older than the other, literally. But just in terms of how the player profiles, they're absolutely similar. And I have no problem with anybody saying that.
guys, it's look how, read into it. He's the one midfielder that he's played all 90 minutes despite going down to 10 men. That's how much he believes in the engine, the maturity, the positional sense, the leadership quality, all at the freaking age of 22. I don't want to go overboard, man, and we should all stay calm. We should all stay calm, but that's the Hungarian Stevie G out there, guys.
And he's handsome as hell.
Always helps.
And
Got it
Always
all.
helps.
good looking guy.
That's one
Good
thing.
looking guy.
See, I was amazing at football, but I couldn't quite have the whole package of the good looks as well. That's the thing.
See, I'm the other way, Grizz. I'm horrible at football, but I'm good looking. Nobody can be both. Only a few of us can be both.
Only
Don't
suppose
worry.
I can be both. Well, there was another super chat I wanted to talk about, but it's I've lost it. I'll bring it back in a minute. Look, guys, we stuck in there. Harvey Elliott, as the super chat said, sorry, Evan knows. I think he's referencing your love and affection for Harvey Elliott. I said it pretty much on every show that every time Harvey Elliott has come on, bar the last one against Bournemouth was a bit rough for him. And even in pre-season, this guy improves. And whether he has a long-term future, successful future in terms of being a regular for Liverpool Football Club, and that is some high standard we're talking about, I still admit and I understand the debate about if that's going to happen or not, and if he's going to end up a regular. But from a young player and from me, what I want to see is improvement, attitude, application, desire, and just get better. For me, Harvey Elliott ticks all of those boxes that I've mentioned. Evan.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would love to wax lyrical about Harvey Elliott. Thanks for inviting me, Grizz. Harvey Elliott has the X factor. He's got the juice, the secret sauce, the elusive it. And if you can't see it, I cannot help you. Actually, I would love to help you. Harvey Elliott is the peak that I see for Harvey Elliott that I would like is Bernardo Silva, the diminutive playmaker who can press for the 90 minutes, who can press effectively. Maybe not everybody has to press for 90 minutes, but Harvey Elliott is an exceptional presser. I've got the eye test to prove it. I've got the numbers to prove it. It just works. Mo Salah's pass to release Darwin Nunez for the second. That's our turnover that Harvey Elliott has forced in midfield. I'm going to keep it there, Grizz. Don't worry. Yeah. Before we even equalize, Harvey Elliott plays Nunez through, and if for a slightly better touch, that would have been one of Nunez's 3 chances in on goal. So he comes in and he's safe with the ball. He presses well, and that's what more could you ask for in a team that struggles to take care of the ball, a team that's down, to 10 men. So keeping control of the ball is worth its weight in gold. And then the ethos of a Klopp player, you press well. He does all those things to an above average standard. And like you said, Grizz, it's a tall order to become an undisputed first teamer in this team. You know what I mean? And anybody who fails to achieve that standard does not mean you're not a great player at all. It's not what that means at all. But Harvey Elliott, I think, has every tool you could ask for that type of Bernardo Silva-esque profile. And man, when we were slugging it out with City those seasons back, between 2017, 2021-ish, I would have given anything to have Bernardo Silva in our team. Anything. There was a time I would have taken him over De Bruyne, at times when De Bruyne was out injured or whatever. So that's the vision. That's my ideal vision for Harvey Elliott. And I could go on and on. In the interest of time, I must stop. But thank you for letting me have my moment.
No problem. Thanks to the super chat that said Evan knows. And Evan has told us what he knows and what he thinks of Harvey Elliott. But I'm going to very quickly speak on Jota, and then I'll let all of you guys have a say on the main man himself of today's evening. But I thought Diogo Jota was unlucky, and I tweeted it at the time. I thought Gakpo will start, and I thought Diogo would be left out, but I said it would be a tough call on Jota. But Jota, the ultimate professional since his time at Liverpool, the ultimate professional, can play a variety of positions and plays every time to the best, not to the best of his ability, but gives the attitude and application that's needed So when your game is not on point, you're still giving something. So if your touch is not there, you're still pressing. So if your control, your link-up plays that are not there, you're still being a nuisance for the opposition. And that's what Diogo Jota brings. There's a lot of players on this planet that if their touch isn't there or if they're not on form, then they don't see nothing from them. You don't see nothing from them. Diogo is not that guy. People are referencing his last performance where his touch was poor and his link-up play was poor, admittedly. But he's still a nuisance and he still knows where to be. I thought, again, he came on 10 men, almost pressed like two players. Reminded me of Sadio Mane pressing and intensity. That's what it reminded me of, the back and forth. But guys, there's a super chat from Jamie. You guys won't know Jamie, maybe you do. But Jamie is the main man, the CEO of your futcard.com. And as you can see, he's got a picture of his website, and I believe that's his daughter or son, as the case may be. Forgive me, my eyes are weak. Szoboszlai and McAllister will transform us elite, he says. He not only says that, it's a perfect segue into speaking about this guy. And before we get into him, of course, as I said, shout out to our channel sponsors, yourfutcard.com. Yeah, it's perfect. This man came up big for Liverpool today. 7 points from 9 with Chelsea and Newcastle away ticked off. Can Liverpool challenge or are they still short? Check out this print, guys. I mean, this is magnificent work. This is a work of art. Like literally, right? Literally a work of art. So go check out yourfutcard.com. All their products are there. And you type in Redfellas, you get 15% off. Did you hear what I just said there? If you type in Redfellas, you get 15% off. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that would like that print. I mean, look how cool that looks in his... he's showing off with his office as well. But look at that. I mean, that hung up there. That is great stuff. Go check them out. Brilliant website. Brilliant people behind the scenes. Help them to help us. We help the community of the Football Carnage that is growing forever and forever. We must touch upon him then. Conroy, the man, Darwizzy, comes on, and Jurgen Klopp talks about sort of, an angry Darwin Nunez. Hasn't started Darwin Nunez. A frustrating start to the season, like it was a frustrating start to the last season. And this kind of chance, Conroy, he's been synonymous with dragging these two chances horribly and looking ugly.
Yep.
My God, he changed the game, Conroy.
Yeah, absolutely. So he comes on the 77th minute, and within the literally, I think, seconds, as Evan mentioned, the ball over. He has a great chance. It's a poor touch, to be honest. So you're thinking to yourself, listen, mate, if you get a chance, you have to take it today. This is not Anfield against Palace when you get free chances. You have to take it, because if you can get a point from this, it could be massive, especially mentally for the rest of the season. So you're thinking to yourself, come on, mate, just take it. And I would actually say that, funny enough, is like, you need to, whoever this chance lands to, they have to take it. A bit like Jota against Spurs. You're not going to get a lot of, that was the last minute of the game. You have to take it. So the goal comes from just before it. There's a good bit of interplay with Elliott in the centre of the park as well. I think it's actually Jota. I may be wrong, but I think it's Jota. I could be incorrect there. Tries to play the pass behind Botman. Doesn't quite catch it correctly. Kind of hits Botman and the bum just above the waist. And he tries to kind of spins off him and tries to get it, but then it ends up falling behind him. Darwin gets in right behind. Great first touch. I think the distance the first touch is very good. And to be perfectly honest, and we be honest here, I think it looks like such a confident strike. It looks so calculated. And that's maybe that is one of his biggest criticisms. That cold, calculated finish that he's not had. He's maybe been erratic at times with certain chances. It's a great finish. It's a hard finish because Nick Pope has got his angle spot on. It's not a bad goal.
Con, do you know what it was, Con? Do you know what it was? It was a training ground finish.
Yeah, 100%.
How many times do we see these on the training ground? Drill after drill after drill.
Yeah.
And like any olders like me, and still know, I don't know if Conroy remember the A-team. Hannibal Lecter used to say, I love when a plan comes together.
Yeah.
This is one of those situations and incidents where, not Hannibal Lecter. Did I say Hannibal Lecter? Fucking hell, Chris.
No, it's Hannibal, isn't it? It's Hannibal. I
Hannibal,
don't
yeah.
know.
Just Hannibal, not Hannibal Lecter.
Just Anthony Hopkins saying, "I love it when a plan comes together."
Yeah, when Anthony Hopkins says, "I love when a plan comes together," fear the fucking worst. Yeah, we don't. That's we don't want to talk about his plans coming together. But when Hannibal said on part of the A team, we knew what he meant.
Yeah.
This was training ground finishes to the extreme.
No, it was superb, and it's like it's. I think Gary Neville said it as well in commentary. It isn't an easy chance. It's not one of them that it's like you're definitely going to score. You want to hit it across the keeper, Hannibal Smith, and do what you can. But it looked such a confident strike. It really was, and it was. I was a big sigh of relief, emotion, buzzing when it went in, because I just thought to myself, when he got in that position, please, mate, I need you to take this today, because it could do a lot for him as well, not just the team. Because if you're the guy to come on, and I'm the one who saved the point today. I know we're going to talk about Salah and stuff, but you've got all these players who've been reliable. It's me who's came on, and I'm going to get the headlines. I think that can do a lot, for you mentally. So I was buzzing, to be honest, when it went in, and it was almost like, see, the first chance he had, it was almost like the bad touch. It just got that out of his system. It was like, if I get another one, I'm burying it. So, yeah, it was a superb goal. And obviously, we're going to speak about what happened. At that point, I'm like, I would have bit your hand off for a point. So I'll take the point right now. That's what
I actually tweeted, there was about 7 minutes of normal time to go. And I actually tweeted a tense last 16 minutes because I knew how much is going to be added on now suddenly. But Steve, at that stage, was you like that, us, like in terms of take the point and run? Or because that killed the atmosphere, that killed their momentum. Harvey Elliott and Szoboszlai by now were buzzing around. The energy shown by Szoboszlai was amazing. Harvey Elliott was linking up the play. Jota and Salah were linking up. Jota, Salah, and Nunez were pressing from the front, and the substitutions at the back. We have a super chat that wants to speak on. Evening, Dinesh. Evening to you. What did you think of Gerald Konza? Matip comes off. We don't know if that's fatigue, injury related, or whatever. Maybe you can touch upon both of them, actually. What did you think of Gomez? I thought Gomez quietly went about his job very well. I know he's received a lot of criticism, but as is the norm on this channel, we praise when it's worthy and we criticize when it's worthy. I think it's worthy praise for Gomez and certainly for Konza.
Yeah, Gomez did nothing wrong when he came on. Fine, steady. I think we weathered the storm then. The threat was in a decline, and this point before you brought the super chat in, Liverpool were growing. After the goal, Liverpool continued to grow. Konza came on, did nothing wrong, found himself in an advanced right wing position on a couple of occasions, quite far up the pitch. Unusual for him. Again, as far as baptism of fire goes, first Premier League game away at Newcastle.
Wow.
The chips are down. We've got to battle on to get something from the game. Came on there, showed great maturity. Don't loan him out. Keep him in the squad. Is the way I look at that.
Is that your decision made? Then do you think you want to keep him? You don't want to send him out on loan?
I'd keep him. As we saw today, we had to make numerous defensive changes for obvious reasons. We got one sent off. We got one that came off, like you've just said, we think for fatigue. We're not blessed with centre-backs. We don't have 7 or 8 anymore. Imagine if we didn't have him, we'd be square pegs and round holes again, wouldn't we? So given that you can have so many players on the bench, it's probably beneficial for him to stay. Probably beneficial for him to train with the players he's training with rather than go to a lesser club in a lower league where he's not going to get to learn from the likes of a Van Dyke and a Canate, if you like, about. He's quite a physical presence, quite a big lad. So you'd think he could take some of the traits from Canate's game about the power side of his game and learn from that. I'm not sure you get that by sending him away to go and play for Bolton or something like that. No disrespect to Bolton, but what does he learn? Because he might be as good as what they've got anyway. So, yeah, really good for both of them when they came on. And to answer your original question, no, when the first goal goes in from Nunez, and that by the way, is what you want Nunez doing at that stage in the game, which is isolating centre-backs and saying, if I get an opportunity, I'm going to run the legs off you because you can't catch me because you're not quick enough, or you're too, in the case of the first one, Botman got the ball caught up, as Conroy quite rightly says, and he capitalised on it.
Yeah, but even that, guys, even that, trust me, I played at the back in my early days. I was a Baresi type centre back for those that are inquiring. Oh, look at that. Hundreds of DMs inquiring already. I was the Baresi type centre back. So, and I tell you from my vast experience and expertise, when you're up against a guy with the pace and the power of Nunez coming on fresh, and you've just played against a different type of striker in Gakpo, who was always dropping deep and you was following him, suddenly there's a total different body shape. There's panic sets in. Any type of ball over the top or through ball sets panic, and that's what happened to the poor fella. Which one was it? Was it Botman? Was it Botman?
And then for the second goal, it's Dan Burn. But that's what I'm trying to say is he's not going to play in a intricate play building system. That's not his strength. We've seen that already. He's a guy that you want potentially later on in the game when legs are tired and people have worked hard to be picking out one central defender. As long as the service is good, and he will get dividends from that. He's a finisher rather than a playmaker. He's an absolute finisher. Great, as Conroy said before, great technique to finish the goal. When he gets in that position, I don't. For the first goal, I'm not convinced he's going to score from there.
I don't think any of us were really.
No. And then when it goes in, you think, shit, man, that was a really good finish. Loads of confidence. Bit of time to think about it, which has always been the criticism of him. When you give him time to think about it, things that don't belong in his brain arrive there and he makes a mess of it. He's more of an instinctive, intuitive finisher, like the Real Madrid goal, which is all about instinct, the one with the flick. But really good to see that today. It will do him absolutely the world of good. And he probably before today was fifth choice centre forward for Liverpool. I'm not sure that changes too much. It gives him more confidence to contribute more, to offer more to the team. But really, really nice to see because he's had a rough time in the hands of the critics and in his own head as well. So him, Gomez and Quansah, superb, all three of
them. I guess we have to touch on another fella, Evan. A lot of rumours about him. I guess I got to caveat this. I'll give the context. Hold on. Let me read the super chat out first and then give the context behind it. Gandahar says, "Hi panel, you never walk alone. Grizz, I won't forgive you for your tweet today about Salah. My heart skipped a beat, literally." And then he says, "Nunez flames." I think he's referring to this tweet where I just mischievously said Salah agreement. And then I followed it up with, "Is one of the greatest forwards the Premier League has ever seen." And he plays for LFC and he will continue to do so. Evan, we don't need to speak about his goal scoring record and everything. But we have a couple of times this season touched upon Mohamed Salah's playmaking ability and how he will define or refine his role. I have got him down in a couple of prediction shows that I do as him being probably one of the best assisters of the season. That pass into Darwin Nunez was sublime. Perfect weight. It was almost like how Salah was showing everyone else, this is the kind of pass that I like. So he knows what a forward likes. I love the way Darwin Nunez sort of swerves away from him and then without touching the ball, without just a body shape, just a twist of his body gets him in line and the pace is so perfect. It was a beautiful pass and then again, another thrilling finish. But how good is Salah the playmaker?
I mean, death, taxes, and a Mo Salah goal contribution. That's just what life is. You know, the three things you can't run from, Grizz. Salah, underrated as a playmaker, always has been. He's a poacher. He's this, he's that. He is a multi-threat machine, and he always has been. It's always been the case. One thing, after watching the goals again, right before we hopped on stream, I have a theory. I think Salah is high IQ enough that when he makes the pass into Darwin, I don't think he's looking at Darwin Nunez. I think he's looking at Dan Burn. He's waiting for Dan Burn for the second for him to turn off. He's waiting for Dan Burn to relax his body language ever so slightly, turn his hips away from pursuing Nunez, and then he plays it through. And I had a conversation with a old former coach of mine. He played in the MLS for many years, which is, it's the MLS, but it's still a very, very high level of the game. And he said the best playmaker in his team wouldn't look at his players making the runs. He would look at the defenders. He would be looking when he was choosing a pass in the final third. He would pick which defender's hips weren't like in line with the rest of the back line, who was looking elsewhere, whose body language didn't match the situation. And if you go back and you look at Dan Burn's body language, he's pursuing Nunez, and then the second Dan Burn doesn't think that the pass is going to happen, Salah plays the pass. Could it just be a happy coincidence? It absolutely could be. But this is the Premier League. This is Mohamed Salah. He's one of the best players in the world, one of the most potent creative threats in the Premier League in the last 6 years. We absolutely can give him the benefit of the doubt that he knew exactly what he was doing with that weighted pass. He was looking at Dan Burn. He's waiting for him to turn off, because as soon as he follows Nunez, he's going to be onside. It's not a question of timing the pass for onsides. It's timing the pass so that he plays it right when Dan Burn doesn't want him to, or at the very least, Dan Burn doesn't expect him to play it. And here's the thing. I think the first finish from Darwin is instinctual because he doesn't have time to think about it. And he just hammers it across goal. And like you guys said, I didn't think it was going in because he was really poor at that specific type of finish last season. The amount he would just drag wide and not even test the goalkeeper from that position became a bit of an issue. It worked for the first one. The second one, that is cool, calm, collected. That is a side foot into the corner, waits for the keeper to go down. Perfect, telegraphed, Henry-esque. These are not easy chances. The angle is not super forgiving, but props to Mohamed Salah, Grizz, for being the potent creative force that we have always known him to be, and others have either been denying, disingenuously not paying attention to, or simply just missing out on the fun.
Scenes, Conroy. It was vital win, absolute huge win. We talked about it all week. I spoke about on 90 minutes that no result would have been damning or would have been defining apart from a heavy loss for Liverpool, because the lack of transfers, because of the mood, because of the injuries and everything else. I thought a narrow win for us was possible, a narrow win for them was possible, a draw was possible. But in the context of the game and the 10 men and the situation, Jurgen Klopp's reaction, the players' reaction at full time, this was huge. We spoke about our opening set of fixtures, Con. Away to Chelsea, away to Newcastle, home to a tricky Bournemouth. Okay, no problem. That's 7 points out of the opening 3. That's 2 games playing 100 minutes with 10 men. Surely that's a brilliant foundation to build on.
Yeah, definitely. And I think in the interview as well, following the game, Trent was saying that when he went to 10 men, they really had to become that unit. And, it's a case of everyone was given 120%.
I didn't like that. Sorry, Con. I thought, Trent, you need to be like that from the start, son. Like, why does it need to be 10 men? Oh, we need to be
because of the highlight, Chris. Maybe because we're happy not to play a highlight. You need to be tight
from the start, bro. Bro, come on.
Yeah.
You need to be focused and tight from the start, bro. I'm going to have words with Trent. Sorry.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I mean, you can maybe say that because it's the one thing that turned Klopp's hand, so he didn't try and play the line as high with that, and they had to be more concise as a unit. Play on the break. That, listen, we've had so many shows where we've debated at times we could do that, but we'll not talk about that today. But in general, I think because they really just had to, really work incredibly hard for 2 games, but especially today at St James's Park to get that result. And let's be honest, to get a point would have been amazing. I mean, to get a win from that situation is just like, it's not insanity, but it's complete elation. Like it's unbelievable. They've probably went into the last 20 minutes, so that's the 81st. So the last 10 minutes thinking, it'd be incredible if you get a draw here, to now get 7 points from 2 games and have a great start. And you've got substance there to build on. You've got a striker who's the 5th choice, who's probably, as Evan said, going to be buzzing now. as well. And even if it is, he's not starting the next game, but it could be it's the Darwin 30 minutes to go, send them on against tired legs, because you know he's just going to run in behind constantly and just cause them all sorts of problems. So there's even that positive that Klopp can look at that in the future. You know, it's there's so many things from that. I think as well, though, I think they said it's not on par with Barcelona, but Klopp even said from his career, he can't remember a game when he's went down to 10 men away to a hostile place like that, 10 minutes to go, and a team came back and won. So it's right up there. So that experience for any team, I think, will do a lot of good for the group. So I think it can only be positive. And do you know what? It could have went a bad way today. 30 minutes in, Evan said earlier when Alison tips Almiron's shot onto the bar or the post, that great save. Evan was saying, he's not going to save 5 of them. It could be 3-4-0. That would have been an absolute, would have been a downer for the rest of the week. So the fact that we've won that game now, Klopp can use that in such a way to kick on to another hard game coming up against Aston Villa. But do you know what? I feel a lot better now. Every game this season, it feels like there's a narrative. You've Unai Emery next week, who's got a really good record against Klopp as well. So it's like, it's going to be an exciting season in general for the neutral. But for us, it's the next task. So, but all in all, come on, you've got to enjoy these moments, as we said. And I thoroughly did today. And it was one of the more unexpected ones, but got to love it.
Bring it on still. We're very close to 400. We might have even surpassed 400. Smash those likes. 400 likes is an amazing number of likes. It just makes us feel good about ourselves that you're actually enjoying the show, as opposed to just having it in the background. You're actively enjoying it, and that's always motivational. Gracie says, love Grizz with the war hat. It's out. It's out. It's back. It's out. It's a new season. I'm ready. The war hat is back because I have a feeling in my loins that Liverpool 2.0 and the Mentality Monsters 2.0 could be back. Evan, you want to come on before I finish off with my speech?
I was gonna ask, does it ever make your head a bit sweaty? Like, do you ever, like, in the war hat, because it looks very cozy. It looks like it's meant for a colder climate.
Very much so. You're spot on. I was feeling that right now, but I couldn't tell people that because they would call me a weirdo. But you've alluded to it. You've brought it out in the public now, and yes, it is. It can get very hotty and sweaty underneath there.
And investigative journalism is a powerful thing, Grizz.
It is indeed. You're tremendous at it. But yeah, look, sometimes you have to make sacrifices for your support of your club. And if this war hat means going away to Newcastle, 10 men, and up against all odds, this war hat brings out the courageous and brave side of Liverpool. I'll continue to wear it on hot days and like this. But this has been Red Fellas, people. Thank you very much for your interaction, people. Thank you very much for your donations. Thank you very much for your likes, your participation in the chat. Steve, Conroy, Evan, we hope to speak very soon again. Liverpool play Aston Villa next. Cracking fixture again. Aston Villa probably on par with the best team in the league at the moment, along with City, but definitely playing the best football under Unai Emery.
They were playing some champagne stuff today.
Oh,
wow.
We have some issues to resolve, namely the Virgil van Dijk replacement. Who will it be? We will speak on it. We will do a preview show. We will talk about any transfers that may be incoming, because we have still 5 days. We keep hope alive. I still believe that we will bring in minimum of one more player, and then we can go again. And that's all we can do. Go again and again and again and again. Smash the like on your way out, people. This has been Red Fellas Sunday night, your Liverpool fix. Love you and leave you.